Hey guys, what's up? Bisectatron here from OneHive Gazette, here with my next video, and in this one I'm talking about the anti-Valkyrie base at Town Hall 9. A little bit of a trickier one. I actually went on YouTube and searched up this just because I already had some ideas, but I just wanted to see if anyone else had anything out there, and I didn't see anything. So I guess you heard it here first when it comes to anti-Valk bases. I mean, there's a lot of Valkyrie attack strategies for Town Hall 9 out there, but I might be one of the first to do anti-Valkyrie base at Town Hall 9. But I think this should be your number one priority, considering that at Town Hall 9, I think Valks are going to be the new meta. They're going to be very popular, and after the buff, we're going to be seeing a lot more of them. I already have. I mean, in the wars we've had so far, they've been super powerful. So I think the number one priority is to defend against Valks at Town Hall 9. So let's take a look at the base, take a look at what kind of structural things it has going on to help defend against the redheads. And yeah, so just starting off, like when you think about Valks, you have to think about what do you have in your arsenal that can kill them or deter them. Like, what do you have against them in your base? Because for Hogs, it's double giant bombs. For Lava Hounds, it's your air defenses and your black bombs. But for Valks, there's not really that much because giant bombs aren't going to do enough damage to really hurt them, especially if they're under heal. Spring traps, you can only get like one of them if you're lucky, but most of the time they avoid them anyway with their AI. So spring traps aren't that helpful either. Really, the things you have are your CC troops if you're lucky and they don't get poisoned and killed. So you have your CC troops, and then you have the design of your base, like the compartments. Because the best defense, in my opinion, against Valks is to make them go the wrong way. If they get into the right part of your base where the attacker wants them, you're in some trouble. They're a pretty OP troop, and that's for a reason. So the best thing you can do is have a well laid out base. And taking a look at this base, what I tried to do is look how big this compartment is. Like, it just goes like that all the way across, no walls, nothing in there. And the idea is that it's almost like a Town Hall 10 like ring around the outside where you want the Valks to keep going around. You don't want them to enter this core, because when they enter this core, it could be GG for you pretty quickly. You want them going around the outside of the base here. And how we're doing that is, well, one thing, the Valks are just like magnets. They will go to any two buildings that are touching, that are nearby, because they love getting the double damage. So in this outer ring of the base, you want to have these kind of wide compartments. Don't make them deep. Don't let them go deep into your base. Just make them wide. So like skinny in a horizontal along the outside of your base. And what that's going to do is the Valks are going to be attracted to these buildings. So have these little trash buildings, little clumps of them inside your base. Don't do defenses. You don't want the Valks targeting your defenses first. You want them to go to these meaningless buildings like storages and pumps and mines and whatever. So don't have two defenses touching in your base if you can help it. The air sweeper doesn't really matter, but the important ones, the ones that can actually hurt Valks, don't have those touching. And especially in the core part of your base, I recommend breaking your core up into a few squares like this. This way, it prevents against quake spells, because these are all more than 6 spaces apart, these walls. Like, there's more than 6 between them. There's at least 7 between each of these walls, which is anti-earthquake. So no one can drop a quake and can open from one side to the other side. These squares are anti-quake. So I would recommend having a few of these anti-quake squares in the middle of your base, just to prevent against people opening up your base too much. This way, they're going to have to drop like a jump here and then like a jump here. They can't just do it in one like set of quake spells. So in the core of the base, though, with these squares, nothing is touching. You can see here, use walls if you have to. Have a few possible giant bomb spots, because frankly, you need to make them think they want to go inside the core of your base. I wouldn't recommend having any giant bombs in the core little squares of your base, but make it look like there could be some giant bombs in there. But in reality, you want them on the outside. I'll talk about that in a minute. But like I said, the most important thing is the design of your base, the setup, like how you do your compartments. You can see here I have a few smaller ones. This one maybe could be a little bit longer, but the thing is, you don't want the Valks to be able to funnel in too easily. So if you have a compartment where the walls, pretend there's a wall where this giant bomb is and the barracks just going straight up, someone can wall breaker in right here, drop a jump on this little junction, and because there's a wall right here, the Valks aren't going to go over here. They're just going to take the jump, enter in here. They could have a second jump right over here, and then you're pretty much done. You need to make it so that the Valks, they're more likely to go over here to these two buildings touching. From there, they'll probably go over to these two, or at least a few of them. Try to take a few Valks out, because that's where you're strongest, when the Valks are stuck on storages, because they don't do a whole lot of damage, to be honest, especially against storages. And while they're shooting, or while they're trying to swing at the storages, your defenses will be hitting them. It's just a good situation for you. So keep these little outside skinny compartments. Have your core compartments, however you want to do it. I recommend the anti-earthquake squares, where they're just one tile too big for you to put an earthquake across the entire compartment. And make sure you have nothing touching inside these cores. But let's talk a little bit about giant bombs now. For giant bombs, I would recommend putting the giant bombs outside of the core. Put them in these little outer compartments. And the reason is you want to defend against hogs, and specifically just like the little sprinkled hogs on each defense that people like to do with Valks. That's pretty common, is someone will use maybe like 8 Valks, and then they'll start sprinkling hogs on these outside defenses. So you want to make these outer areas as unfriendly as possible to hogs. So you can see all the spring traps are right here along the outside, trying to make it so the hogs aren't going to go very far into your base when they drop them on the outside. Nothing in this area. You can if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it, because even if they do get their Valks to the core, you want there to not be a whole lot of value in there for the Valks. So yeah, I would recommend keeping it on the outside. This is all trying to prevent against kind of the typical Valk 3-star, which is like I said, they funnel them into the core of your base. They set off all the giant bombs. They can, swing down your Tesla farm, take out all the defenses that are touching. Then they just sprinkle in hogs on the outside where they know it's safe, but don't let it be safe out there. Put these giant bombs, put these spring traps on the first, second defense that the hogs are going to target, and get those hogs down quickly, because people are just going to be spreading them out on your base, and you need these defenses, or these traps on the outside to help defend your defenses. Another thing I want to talk about is, let's just talk about trash buildings real quick. You can see they're in these little pairs along the outside of the base. This is just trying to make it hard to funnel the Valks in. These are Valk magnets, like I said. So unless they take them out for the funnel, there's a good chance the Valks will run over and start targeting them. I don't have a whole lot of trash buildings, so I don't have very many of these. But if your base is kind of more compact or smaller, you can put more trash buildings outside and have more of these little two building touching next to each other, because that will attract the Valks, and it will make them run over there and try to swing at that instead of funneling inside the base like the attacker wants. Another thing that goes along with the traps is the offset king. Notice how, for the most part, his range doesn't involve the core, just that little piece of it by the air sweeper, but not that much. You don't want, because the Valks are going to take down the king in like one swing by a group of them. You literally do not want your king to have anything to do with those Valks. He does very little damage, and they do quite a bit of damage to him. So that's always a lose if your king's taking on the Valks. Put him on the outside here. If they're going to come from this angle, so be it. But it would be, if they're going to do it, it is what it is. But usually, if they come from another side of the base, which the odds are they will, just by chance, or if you set your base up like that to make it so they want to come from the other side, the king can deal with the hogs or something like that. So put him really offset, like this looks kind of exaggerated, but to be honest, if they want to try to lure him out and try to use some wizards to kill him, that's your gain, because he's not worth it. Put him to the outside. If you're lucky, he can take out some hogs that they try to sprinkle in. He's another one of these defenses / traps that you want to make sure the Valks can't get to if they get inside the core, because Valks in the core is your worst nightmare, especially if you have all your king and your giant bombs and all that inside that area. So keep your king offset. As far as CC troops go, kind of your preference. A few recommendations are the Lava Hound. That's just a solid Town Hall 9 move at this point. It takes up time if the queen gets locked onto it. And also, if the queen gets locked onto it, the Valks are going to run out ahead, but the queen's going to be stuck back somewhere on the Lava Hound. So it kind of lures the Valks in deeper into your base when the queen's not able to back them up. They can get killed quicker, and by the time the queen gets up there, the Valks could all be dead. then things could start targeting her. So it kind of splits up the kill squad, if you know what I mean. So a Hound works great. Minions can work, but the poison spell is kind of preventative against that. If they're going to use Quakes, they might not have a poison spell, but I would plan on it. Because minions can destroy Valks pretty quickly if you have some level 7 minions, like 15 of them. If they get out on those Valks, or even the Golems, they're going to tear through them pretty quickly. Same with Wizards, any kind of high damage troop for their troop space. So, it is what it is. You can do what you want, but I would say a Hound, or if you want to take a risk, you can do something that could be taken out by the poison spell, but if you're going to guess they don't have a poison spell, it's a risk you can take if you want. I would recommend a Hound, though, just in my opinion. But anyway, that's the CC troops. Not that important. What else do we have? Single bombs I wrote down. That's kind of, you can have a double set, but try to make it towards the outside. Just like I said, you don't want the Valks to trigger it if they get in the core. So single, double. I would recommend single, but, whatever you want to do. Spring traps. Spring traps are going to be defending against Hogs. I kind of went over this already. Valks aren't going to go flying the spring traps, and if they do, only one can at a time, so not that great a value. It's good if it happens, but the Valk AI, they want to run between two buildings, and these are two buildings that are touching each other, so there can't be a spring trap in there. It's pretty unlikely they'll hit a spring trap just running normally throughout the base. I would recommend putting it there for Hogs to try to take out some of these Hogs, put them pretty far out, so as soon as one defense goes down, the Hogs or the spring traps right there to try to throw off a few of the Hogs. That's my recommendation for that. One more thing, let's talk about Tesla farms and stuff. There's kind of two options you can do. The first thing is to have this Tesla farm that's separated by walls. That's basically trying to make it so the Valks, if they get stuck on a wall, the Tesla's right there beating on them. You don't want to have all 4 or all 3 or whatever of your Teslas in one compartment, because that makes it so that if they get the Valks there, they just a few swings, your Teslas are done. You want them separated by walls. That's really going to help you out. So, there could be a jump here, but make them put that jump there if they want to get all the Teslas taken out, because oftentimes for this base especially, they might get into this compartment or even this compartment, but there's still 3 Teslas, raining down on them while they're beating through the wall. So that can help. Put your that's another thing. If you have different level walls, let's say you have some lavas and then some Legos, put the higher level lava walls on the inside. It's more likely the Valks are going to beat through that. They'll probably just use wall breakers on the outside. So just put your lower level walls on the outside, put your higher level ones farther into the base. Wizard towers, one thing I want to let you guys know is they're pretty solid against Valks. If you have a group of Valks that's not under a heal, and that's really important. If they're under a heal, it won't do anything. But if they're not under a heal, especially later in the raid, and they're on a wall right here, these wizard towers can rain in on them. So if you kind of put them, like the giant bombs, surrounding the core, you can even put one here, or just somewhere kind of on the flank of the Valks. Let me readjust that. Is there a hole right here? No, I don't think so. If you can put the wizard towers facing into the core so they can start shooting in, but they're not actually going to be targeted in the core, that's great. A group of Valks will go down quicker than you think to 2 wizard towers shooting in on them, plus other defenses. So yeah, I would recommend putting the wizard towers in places where they can kind of snipe in on the Valks, but they won't be targeted themselves if you can get that to happen. So yeah, just be creative, I guess. Not that big of a deal, but these are just little things that can help defend against Valks, and they all add up pretty quickly. I'm trying to think if I missed anything else. I think everything's pretty much covered. If you have a question or something, go ahead and comment it below. But one thing I just want to stress one more time is the layout of your base. Number one thing you can do, if you're not going to do anything else, just make sure your layout is somewhat like the one mine is, where you have long, doesn't have to be this exaggerated. This is kind of an exaggerated base, which might be weak to other strategies, but something along the lines of this, where you have these long, skinny compartments kind of wrapping around the base, which is going to try to make the Valks wrap around and not go into the core. And then in the core, like I said, anti-earthquake, it doesn't help to have all these little compartments in the core, because one quake, or 4 quakes, I guess, drop those down, it's all opened up. So don't bother, surrounding your CC with walls and stuff. Just make it anti-earthquake. Have that seven space between the walls. So the walls, I guess, are 9 apart. You know what I mean. So that you can't drop quakes across them. I can't go from point A there to point B there with one set of quake spells. So just be aware of that. Be cognizant. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it helps. Might be changing later on. If I have some more info for you, I'll go ahead and try to update this video if things start changing. But these are just my thoughts. Like I said, you heard it here first. I haven't seen any other YouTubers be doing this. So, like I said, hope it helps. Go out there, make your anti 3-star Valk bases, and hopefully you can at least defend against Valks and maybe a few other army comps at the same time if you're lucky. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye, Sectatron out.